Every year, my son forgot Thanksgiving. Not forgot the date. Not forgot the turkey or the cranberry sauce or the pumpkin pie cooling on the windowsill. He forgot me. Ryan would send a text around November 20th, always at night when he knew I'd already be in bed. Something like, "Crazy busy this year, Dad," or "Madison's family is hosting, you understand," or my personal favorite, "We'll catch up soon, promise." Always an excuse wrapped in fake warmth. Never an invitation, never a phone call, just a text message, 10 words or less, designed to check a box in his conscience and move on. And every year I'd spend Thanksgiving alone in my Denver duplex, heating up a hungry man frozen dinner, watching football games I didn't care about, pretending I didn't notice the empty chair across from me or the silence that pressed against the walls like something physical and suffocating. 62 years old, and my only child treated me like a burden he'd already buried. For 28 years I'd made excuses for him. He's busy building his career. He's focusing on his marriage. He's under a lot of pressure. I told myself that love didn't need holidays or traditions or phone calls that lasted longer than 3 minutes. I told myself that being a father meant giving without expecting anything in return. But this year, sitting alone last Thanksgiving with gravy congealing on a plastic tray, something inside me finally broke. Not broke like shattered glass. Broke like a dam that had been holding back 30 years of disappointment and rage and grief. And when it broke, I didn't cry. I didn't call Ryan and beg for scraps of his attention. I didn't write him a letter explaining how much he'd hurt me. Instead, I chose to bury something else. The hope that he'd ever change. The fantasy that one day he'd wake up and understand what he'd thrown away. The foolish, stubborn belief that family ties meant anything at all. I spent December looking at real estate listings. Not in Denver. Not in the suburbs where Ryan and Madison lived in their overpriced townhouse with the mortgage they couldn't afford. I looked at places far away. Places where the silence wasn't lonely, just quiet. Places where I could breathe. In January, I found it. A house in the Rockies. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, wraparound porch that overlooked 40 acres of pine and granite and sky that went on forever. The place sat at 7,800 feet elevation, where the air tasted like winter even in July, and the nearest neighbor was 3 miles down a dirt road that washed out every spring. The house needed work. The roof leaked. The wiring was a fire hazard. The foundation had settled unevenly, leaving cracks in the drywall and floors that sloped like ocean swells. I loved it immediately. I put in an offer that afternoon. Paid cash. The seller, a widow whose husband had built the place with his own hands 40 years ago, cried when she signed the papers. She said I reminded her of him. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just thanked her and promised to take care of it. I spent my last 6 months as a structural engineer, designing every detail of the renovations myself. New roof with solar panels, upgraded electrical system with backup generators, foundation reinforcement using techniques I'd developed working on bridges in the 80s. I drew blueprints at night and emailed them to contractors during lunch breaks. No mortgage, no co-signers, no one to answer to. Just me and the mountains and work that mattered. Ryan didn't know I'd bought the house until I'd already moved in. Didn't know I'd sold the duplex in Denver, or that I'd retired 3 months early, or that I'd spent August living out of my truck while the construction crew finished the interior work. He didn't know, because he never asked. Because in the 8 months between last Thanksgiving and the day I left Denver, he called me exactly twice. Once to ask if I could co-sign a loan for his startup. Once to tell me he couldn't make Father's Day because they were going to Cabo. I told him no to the loan, told him to have fun in Cabo. He said, "Okay, talk soon," and hung up before I could say anything else. So when I finally called him on a Saturday morning in early November, standing on my new porch watching elk graze in the meadow below, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I was calm, focused, ready. He answered on the 4th ring, voice thick with sleep and annoyance. "Dad, it's like 7 in the morning. What's going on?" It's 9:30, I said, and I'm calling to let you know I moved. Silence. Then, you what? Bought a house. Up in Colorado, near Gunnison. Moved in last month. More silence. I could hear Madison in the background asking who it was. Ryan ignored her. You bought a house. That's right. Without telling me. Didn't realize I needed your permission. His voice sharpened. Dad, that's not what I meant. Why didn't you say something? We could have helped. Looked at places with you. Made sure you weren't getting ripped off. I'm a structural engineer, Ryan. I know how to buy a house. You were a structural engineer. You're retired now. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. Yeah, I am. So what, you're just going to live up there alone, in the middle of nowhere? That's the plan. Dad, that's insane. You're 62. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if... Then I'll handle it. How? You don't even have neighbors. I have a satellite phone, internet, a truck that starts in January. I'll be fine. Madison said something in the background. Ryan covered the phone, but I heard him snap, "Not now." Then he was back. We need to talk about this. In person. Why? Because you're making huge decisions without consulting anyone. That's not normal. Normal, I repeated. Yeah, normal. Responsible adults don't just sell their house and disappear into the mountains without telling their family. You're right, I said. They don't. But then again, responsible adults don't ignore their father for 8 months straight either. Oh, here we go. The guilt trip. It's not a guilt trip, Ryan. It's a fact. I've been busy. You've always been busy. What do you want from me? You want me to apologize for having a life? I took a breath. Let it out slow. No, I want you to be honest. You don't call because you don't care. And that's fine. But don't pretend this is about me being irresponsible. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, watching the sun climb over the mountains, feeling nothing but relief. 3 days passed. I split wood, fixed a leak in the bathroom, started building shelves for the living room, watched the weather roll in from the west, clouds piling up against the peaks like gray wool. And then, on Tuesday afternoon, I heard an engine struggling up the gravel driveway. I was outside, axe in hand, splitting logs into kindling. The sound of the car made me stop, not because I was expecting company, because I wasn't expecting that car, a Tesla. Black and gleaming like something from a spaceship, struggling up the incline, tires spinning on loose gravel, suspension bottoming out on ruts that my truck handled without effort. It stopped 20 feet from the porch. The door opened. Ryan stepped out wearing aviator sunglasses and a coat that probably cost more than my truck. Behind him came a man in a gray suit carrying a leather briefcase. Ryan didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't say hello or nice place or sorry for showing up unannounced. He just walked toward me, hands in his pockets, jaw set like he was about to fire someone. Dad, we need to talk. I sank the axe into the stump and wiped my hands on my jeans. Took my time, let him stand there waiting. That's why you brought a lawyer? The man in the suit extended his hand. Dale Patterson, estate planning attorney. I looked at the hand. Didn't take it. I didn't hire you. Your son did, Patterson said smoothly. On your behalf. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? On my behalf. That's correct. I looked at Ryan. You hired a lawyer. On my behalf, without asking me. Dad, I'm worried about you. Worried. Yeah, you're up here alone making huge financial decisions without consulting anyone. You sold your house in Denver without telling me. You're acting erratic. I picked up a split log and tossed it onto the pile. Picked up another. Split it clean down the middle with one swing. Erratic, that's a big word. I'm serious. So am I. Patterson cleared his throat. Mr. Lister, perhaps we should go inside. Discuss this more comfortably? We're not going anywhere, I said. You can say whatever you came to say right here. Ryan stepped closer, close enough that I could see the tightness around his eyes, the way his jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. Fine. I think it's time we had a serious conversation about your assets, about the future. The future, I repeated. You mean my will? I mean making sure you're taken care of. By taking my money. By managing it responsibly. You clearly can't. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound echoed off the trees, sharp and ugly. I can't manage money. Me. The guy who put himself through college working construction. Who paid off your student loans when you dropped out after 2 years. Who co-signed your first apartment lease because your credit was garbage. That guy can't manage money. That was different. How? I was young. You were 25. Same age I was when I bought my first house. Times were different then. Yeah, I said. They were. People had shame. His face went red. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're not here because you're worried about me. You're here because you want my house, my savings, everything I worked for, and you think I'm too old and stupid to stop you. Patterson held up a hand. Mr. Lister, no one is trying to take anything from you. We're simply suggesting that given your age and your isolation up here, it might be wise to consider transferring certain assets into a trust, for your own protection. A trust, I said. Correct. And who would manage this trust? Your son would serve as trustee, meaning he'd have full control over my accounts, my property, everything. It's standard practice, Patterson said, especially in cases where cognitive decline might be a factor. The words hung in the air like smoke. Cognitive decline. I set down the axe, pulled out my phone, hit the voice recorder app, held it up so they could both see the screen glowing red. Say that again, I said quietly. Ryan's face went white. What are you doing? Documenting this conversation. For my protection. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson. Tell me again how you think I'm losing my mind. Patterson stepped back. Mr. Lister, recording without consent is legal in Colorado. One-party consent state. I'm a party. I'm consenting. So talk. Ryan lunged forward, tried to grab the phone. I stepped aside and he stumbled, catching himself against the woodpile, bark scraping his expensive coat. Dad, turn that off right now. Or what? Or I'll have you declared incompetent. I'll file for emergency conservatorship. I'll make sure a judge sees exactly how unstable you are. I stopped the recording, slipped the phone back into my pocket, picked up the axe again, not threatening, just holding it, the weight familiar in my hands. Get off my property, I said. This isn't over. No, I said. It's not. Not even close. They left. Ryan threw the Tesla into reverse, spraying gravel, almost backing into a tree before he straightened out. I watched the taillights disappear down the driveway, red flashes between the pines getting smaller and smaller until there was nothing but silence and wind in the branches. Then I went inside, poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey, opened the folder I'd been keeping for 3 years. Inside were copies of every email Ryan had ever sent me asking for money. 37 emails, $20,000 in loans he never paid back. Every text message where he'd promised this time would be different. Every voicemail where he'd called me dad like it meant something. And at the bottom, underneath everything else, a single document I'd had notarized 2 months ago in Denver. A private loan agreement, $50,000, signed by Ryan 3 years ago when his startup nearly collapsed and no bank would touch him. Interest-free. No repayment schedule, just a promise. And buried in the fine print, a clause Ryan never read because he never read anything I gave him. If he ever initiated legal action against me for any reason, the loan became due immediately, full amount, plus collateral seizure. The collateral being his car and 20% equity in his company. He'd signed it in my kitchen, barely glancing at the pages, too desperate for the money to care about details. I took a long drink of whiskey and smiled. Let him come. Let him try. I was ready. The call came the next morning while I was frying eggs. Mr. Lister, this is Jenna Ortiz from Gunnison County Adult Protective Services. I turned down the burner. What can I do for you, Ms. Ortiz? We received a report yesterday, a concern regarding your welfare. The report alleges you may be experiencing cognitive impairment and making unsafe decisions. I set down the spatula. Who filed the report? I'm not at liberty to say, but the person is listed as a family member. My son. She paused. I can't confirm that, Mr. Lister, but we're required to follow up on every report. I'd like to schedule a home visit. When? Would tomorrow work? Around 10? I'll be here. She hung up. I stared at the eggs turning brown in the pan, then scraped them into the trash. Wasn't hungry anymore. Ryan had wasted no time. Less than 24 hours, and he'd already sicked the county on me. I should have been angry, but mostly I felt tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving myself to people who'd already made up their minds. But tired wasn't the same as defeated. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. Not because the house was dirty, because I wanted Jenna Ortiz to see exactly what I'd built. The custom shelving I'd designed and installed myself. The solar panel system I'd wired without help. The rainwater collection setup that kept me off the county water system. Every detail screamed competence. That night, I made a phone call I'd been putting off for weeks. Rob? The voice was young, uncertain. Hey, Danny, you got a minute? Danny Reed was 14 years old. Thin kid with dark hair that always fell into his eyes, and a habit of chewing his thumbnail when he was nervous. I'd met him 2 years ago when I volunteered at the group home in Denver, fixing a busted heating unit in the middle of January. Most of the kids there were temporary placements, waiting for foster families or relatives to claim them. Danny had been waiting 6 years. Nobody wanted a teenager. Too old, too damaged, too much work. We'd started talking that first day. He'd watched me work, asked smart questions about load-bearing walls and thermal expansion. Didn't get in the way. Reminded me of myself at that age. Hungry to learn, desperate for someone to notice. Over the next 18 months, I visited twice a week, taught him how to read blueprints, how to use a miter saw without losing fingers, how to change brake pads and check transmission fluid. Normal father-son stuff. Except I wasn't his father. 6 months ago, I'd filed for legal guardianship. The process was still ongoing, paperwork crawling through family court like molasses. But Danny knew, and he'd asked me once, voice small, why I'd bother with a kid nobody else wanted. I'd told him the truth, because my own son had turned out to be someone I didn't recognize, and because Danny deserved better than what he'd gotten. Yeah, Danny said now. What's up? I need you to do something for me. It's important. Okay. I'm going to text you an address, my lawyer's office downtown. I need you to go there tomorrow after school and sign some papers. What kind of papers? Trust documents. For the house. I'm putting it in your name. Long silence. Then, what? You heard me. Rob, I don't understand. Why would you? Because you're the closest thing I've got to real family, I said. And because I trust you, more than I trust my own son. But what about, Danny? Listen, I don't have time to explain everything right now. Things are happening. Bad things. And I need to make sure you're protected no matter what happens to me. His voice went tight. Are you in trouble? Not yet, but I might be. So I need you to do this. Can you? Another pause. Okay. Good. The lawyer's name is Margaret Hale. She's expecting you at 4. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not the group home staff, not your caseworker, nobody. Understand? Yeah. I'll call you tomorrow night. And Danny? Yeah? Thank you for trusting me. I hung up before he could answer. Sat in the dark living room staring at the cold fireplace, thinking about the strange paths that led people to each other. How you could raise someone from birth and end up strangers. How you could know someone 2 years and feel like you'd known them forever. Ryan would never get it. He'd see it as betrayal, choosing some random kid over his own family. He'd never grasp that he made that choice himself, years ago, every time he forgot to call or only showed up when he wanted something. But that was Ryan's problem, not mine. Jenna Ortiz arrived at 9:55, driving a white county SUV with official markings. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 30, with careful eyes and a clipboard that looked too big for her hands. I met her at the door with coffee already brewed. "Mr. Lister? Rob, come on in." She hesitated, then followed me inside. I watched her take inventory, the hand-built furniture, the engineering textbooks on the shelves, the framed blueprints on the walls, everything organized, everything deliberate. "This is beautiful," she said. "Thanks. Built most of it myself." We sat at the kitchen table. She opened her notebook, clicked her pen. "I appreciate you meeting with me on short notice." "Not like I had a choice." She smiled slightly. "True, but some people make it difficult. You're being cooperative. That helps." "What do you need to know?" She asked the standard questions. "Date, current president, count backward from 100 by sevens." I answered without hesitation. She asked about medications, diet, daily routine, checked my kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, looked at the pills in my cabinet, the food in my fridge, the smoke detectors on the ceiling. Finally, she closed her notebook. "Mr. Lister, I don't see any cause for concern. You're clearly capable of managing your own affairs." "Good. However," she said carefully, "I do think there's something else going on here. Something with your son." I sipped my coffee. Didn't answer. "I've been doing this job 5 years," she continued, "and I've learned to recognize patterns. This doesn't feel like genuine concern for a parent's welfare. This feels like a conflict about assets." "You'd be right. Want to talk about it?" I considered. Then I pulled out my phone, found the recording from yesterday, and played it. Ryan's voice filled the kitchen, demanding I sign over my assets. Patterson talking about cognitive decline, the threat of emergency conservatorship. Jenna listened without interrupting. When it finished, she looked at me differently. "That's not concern," she said. "That's coercion." "Yeah. Have you considered getting a lawyer?" "Already got one." "Good." She stood, handed me her card. "Mr. Lister, if your son tries to file for conservatorship, call me immediately. I'll testify that I found no evidence of impairment. It won't guarantee anything, but it helps." "I appreciate that." She paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing fine. Better than fine. But family disputes like this can get ugly fast. Be prepared." "I am," I said. After she left, I called Margaret Hale. "How'd it go?" she asked. "Perfect. She found nothing. Even offered to testify if Ryan files for conservatorship." "He will. It's the next logical step. How long do we have?" "Week, maybe 2. He'll file in Denver County since that's where he lives. Emergency petition. Claim you're a danger to yourself." "Can we beat it?" "Absolutely. We'll file a motion to dismiss, request an independent psychiatric evaluation. But Rob, that's defensive. If you really want to end this, we need to go on offense." "I'm listening." "The loan agreement. If he files for conservatorship, that triggers the acceleration clause. Full repayment due immediately. If he can't pay, we seize collateral, his car, his company shares. Do it. Rob, once we pull that trigger, there's no going back. He'll lose everything." "Good," I said. He should have thought about that before he came after me. Margaret was quiet for a moment. "All right, I'll prepare the paperwork. But I need something from you first." "What?" "I need you to invite him here, for Thanksgiving." "Why?" "Because we're going to need witnesses, documentation, video evidence that you're competent and he's the aggressor, and the best way to get that is to let him walk into a trap." I smiled. I like the way you think. I called Ryan on November 20th. He answered immediately, which told me he'd been waiting. What do you want? To apologize, I said. Silence. You were right. I've been stubborn, difficult. I shouldn't have shut you out like that. Okay. I'd like to make it up to you. Come up for Thanksgiving. Bring Madison. Let's try to fix this. More silence. Then, why the sudden change? Because you're my son. And I've been thinking about what you said. About being alone up here. About making decisions without talking to anyone. Maybe I do need help. He wanted to believe me. I could hear it in his breathing, the slight catch before he spoke. What kind of help? I don't know yet, but we can talk about it. Figure something out. Like a family. Just like that. Just like that. Another pause. Fine. We'll come. But Dad? Yeah? If this is some kind of game, I'm done. Understand? I'll file papers and you'll never see me again. It's not a game, Ryan, I promise. He hung up. I sat on the porch, watching snow begin to fall, light and dry, dusting the pines. Margaret called an hour later. He took the bait? He did. Good. I'll have a notary and videographer there by 1. Court certified. Everything documented. What about the social worker? I'll reach out to Jenna Ortiz, see if she's willing to come unofficially. Having her there adds credibility. And if Ryan figures out what's happening? He won't. Not until it's too late. Men like your son don't see traps. They only see opportunities. The next 3 days blurred together. I cleaned the house until it gleamed. Bought a turkey and all the fixings. Set the dining room table like I actually cared about holidays. And in the corner, hidden behind a decorative screen, Margaret's videographer set up 2 cameras and microphones. Danny called Wednesday night. Rob, everything okay? Yeah, kid. Why? I signed those papers yesterday. Your lawyer said the house is mine now. I don't understand what's happening. It means you're protected. No matter what happens to me, you've got a home. But why would something happen to you? It won't, I said. But my son is trying to take everything I own, and I'm not going to let him. This way he can't touch you or the house. This is because of me, isn't it? Because you're trying to help me. This is because my son is a greedy piece of work who sees people as bank accounts. You're the best thing in my life right now, Danny. Don't ever think otherwise. I heard him crying softly. I've never had anyone say that to me before. Well, I'm saying it now, and I mean it. Thursday morning, I woke at 5, made coffee, watched sunrise paint the mountains gold and orange. Margaret arrived at noon with Patricia the notary, a severe woman who looked like she'd notarized mob confessions. The videographer, a quiet man named James, set up his equipment without speaking. Jenna Ortiz showed up at 1:30, carrying a pie. Thanks for coming, I said. I shouldn't be here. This is highly irregular. I know, but I need someone official to see what's about to happen. She looked around at the cameras, the notary, Margaret standing by with a briefcase. What exactly is about to happen? Justice, I said. Ryan's Tesla pulled up at 2:15, 15 minutes late, which was typical. He stepped out wearing a cashmere sweater in dove gray that probably cost more than my monthly utilities and property taxes combined. Madison followed, phone already out, filming everything like she was documenting a safari. She wore stiletto heels, on gravel, in the mountains, in November. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I met them at the door with a smile I'd been practicing for 3 days. Ryan, Madison, welcome, come in, come in. Turkey's almost ready. Ryan's eyes swept the living room immediately, cataloging, calculating, looking for signs of decline or disorder. Instead, he found gleaming hardwood floors I'd refinished myself. Custom built-ins filled with engineering textbooks organized by subject. Framed blueprints on the walls, each one a project I'd designed, everything neat, everything intentional. Then he saw Margaret sitting in the armchair by the fireplace, legal pad on her lap. What's she doing here? She's my lawyer, Margaret Hale. I believe you two spoke on the phone. Why do you need a lawyer at Thanksgiving dinner? I smiled wider. Same reason you brought one to my house 2 weeks ago, son. Insurance. His jaw tightened, that little muscle jumping the way it always did when he was angry, but trying to hide it. Dad, this is supposed to be family time. It is family time. That's why I invited witnesses. Come on, the dining room's this way. I led them through. The table was set like something from a magazine. China I'd inherited from my mother. Crystal glasses, cloth napkins, candles. And at the head of the table, Margaret. On one side, 2 empty chairs for Ryan and Madison. On the other side, me. And at the far end, 2 more people Ryan hadn't noticed yet. Jenna Ortiz, the social worker who'd evaluated me last week, and Patricia Gomez, a notary public whose business card said she specialized in estate documentation and had a perfect 5-star rating on Google. Ryan stopped in the doorway. What the hell is this? Thanksgiving dinner, I said cheerfully. Please, sit. No, not until you tell me what's going on. Ryan, sit down or leave, your choice. Madison tugged his sleeve. Babe, let's just see what he wants. What he wants is to humiliate me. Probably, I agreed. But the turkey's getting cold, so sit. Something in my voice, the flatness under the false cheer, made him move. He sat. Madison sat beside him, phone still recording, capturing every moment for her Instagram followers who thought her life was perfect. Margaret opened her briefcase with a crisp snap that echoed in the suddenly silent room. Mr. Lister, for the record, can you state your full name and today's date? Robert James Lister, November 28th, 2024, Thursday, Thanksgiving. And are you here of your own free will? I am. Are you under any duress, medication, or influence that would impair your judgment? No, ma'am. Stone cold sober and thinking clearer than I have in 30 years. Patricia pulled out her stamp and pressed it onto a document with practiced efficiency. I hereby certify that Robert James Lister is of sound mind and body, appearing before me this 28th day of November 2024, and is making the following statements voluntarily, and with full understanding of their legal implications. Ryan's face went from confused to white in about 2 seconds. Dad, what are you doing? Margaret pulled out a thick folder. 3 weeks ago, on November 7th, you came to this property accompanied by Dale Patterson, an estate planning attorney. You alleged your father was experiencing cognitive decline. You attempted to coerce him into signing over his assets to a trust controlled by you. You threatened him with emergency conservatorship. Is that an accurate summary? I was trying to help him. He's up here alone making crazy decisions. By threatening conservatorship, he's not capable of managing. Ms. Ortiz, Margaret interrupted smoothly. You conducted a home visit on November 9th. What were your findings? Jenna shifted in her chair, uncomfortable but professional. I found no evidence of cognitive impairment. Mr. Lister demonstrated complete competency in all areas assessed. His home was well-maintained, organized, and safe. He answered all screening questions correctly. His finances were in order. There was no indication of self-neglect or diminished capacity. And the allegations made by his son? Unsubstantiated and, in my professional opinion, appeared to be motivated by something other than genuine concern for his welfare. Ryan stood abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. This is insane. You're all insane. Dad, you set me up. Sit down, Ryan. We're not done. I'm leaving. No, you're not. Because if you walk out that door right now, everything I'm about to show you gets filed with Denver County Court tomorrow morning, and then you're really screwed, so sit down. Madison pulled him back into his chair. Ryan, just listen. Margaret pulled out another document, this one clipped to a blue backing sheet that meant it was already notarized and recorded. Mr. Lister, did your son sign a private loan agreement with you on March 15th, 2021? He did. For what amount? $50,000. Ryan's face went from white to red, splotchy and furious. That was a gift. You said it was a gift. You said I didn't have to pay it back. No, Ryan, I said it was interest-free. I said there was no repayment schedule. I never once said you didn't have to pay it back. You signed a legal contract. You just never bothered to read it because you never read anything I give you. Margaret slid the document across the table. 7 pages. Ryan's signature on the last page, witnessed and notarized by a notary who'd since retired to Florida, but whose testimony was already secured via video deposition. This contract contains an acceleration clause, Margaret continued, her voice level and professional, the voice of someone who'd done this 100 times. Section 7, paragraph 3. If the borrower initiates any legal action against the lender, including but not limited to conservatorship petitions, guardianship filings, or property disputes, the full amount becomes due immediately, plus collateral seizure as outlined in Section 9. Ryan was reading now, finger tracing the lines, face going paler with each word. What collateral? Your car, and 20% equity in Innova Solutions, your startup. The room went silent except for the sound of Madison's sharp intake of breath and the faint hiss of the video camera in the corner that Ryan still hadn't noticed. You can't do that, Ryan whispered. I can, and I did. The papers were filed with Denver County Court this morning. You have 72 hours to produce $50,000 or we seize assets. The clock started at 9 a.m. today. I don't have $50,000. You know I don't have it. The company's bleeding money. The investors are pulling out. Then I guess you're walking home, or taking an Uber. I hear they're reliable these days. Ryan lunged across the table, both hands flat on the wood, leaning toward me with something wild in his eyes. You planned this, all of it. The phone call, this dinner, the recording. You planned every second. I did. Why? Why would you do this to me? I stood slowly, leaning forward to meet him eye to eye across the table. Because you came to my house with a lawyer and tried to steal everything I've worked for. Because you called the county and told them I was losing my mind. Because you were willing to have me declared incompetent, lock me in some facility, and take my property without a shred of actual concern for my well-being. You wanted to bury me, Ryan, so I buried you first. You're my father, and you're my son. But that stopped meaning anything to you a long time ago. I was just a wallet. A retirement account you couldn't wait to cash in. Well, congratulations. You finally got my attention. Madison stood, grabbing her purse. Ryan, we need to go. Now. No, this isn't over. Dad, you can't do this. I'll fight it. I'll take you to court. Margaret pulled out another document. If you file any legal challenge to this agreement, we'll invoke the harassment clause. That adds another $25,000 in penalties, and I'll personally ensure every investor in your company knows you defaulted on a family loan and had assets seized. See how that affects your next funding round. Ryan's mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. You have until Sunday at 9 a.m., I said quietly. $50,000. Cash, certified check, or wire transfer. Otherwise, the tow truck comes Monday morning. Dad, please, get out of my house. They left. Madison drove because Ryan's hands were shaking too hard to hold the wheel. I watched through the window as the Tesla backed down the driveway. Madison's face tight with anger, Ryan slumped in the passenger seat staring at nothing. When the taillights disappeared, I turned to find everyone watching me. Well, Margaret said. That went better than expected. Jenna stood, gathering her coat. Mr. Lister, I need to ask, are you sure about this? He's your son. He stopped being my son when he decided I was worth more gone than alive. I'm just making sure he learns that lesson before I actually am gone. She nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. But be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. I know, I said. I'm counting on it. The first email arrived at 6:30 the next morning, Subject line in all caps. You'll regret this. I was on the porch drinking coffee, watching fog settle in the valley like spilled milk. I opened it on my phone. You embarrassed me in front of strangers. You wrecked my credit. You're taking my car, my company, everything I've worked for. And why? Because I tried to help you? Because I cared enough to stop you from making foolish choices? You're a bitter old man who can't stand to see his son do well. Fine, Dad. You win. I hope it meant something to you. I hope you like being alone up there with no one who cares. Don't call me. Don't email me. As far as I'm concerned, you're already gone. I read it twice, deleted it, took another sip of coffee. By noon, there were 20 more texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Madison's phone, Madison's sister's phone. Someone named Trevor who I assumed worked at Ryan's company. All variations of the same theme. Please reconsider. You're destroying him. Family should forgive. Money isn't worth losing your son. I blocked every number. Margaret called it too. He's hired a lawyer, Julian Torres from Morrison and Klein in Denver. Big firm, expensive. Can they beat the contract? Not a chance. The contract is ironclad. But they'll try to drag it out, argue you coerced him into signing, claim undue influence, maybe try to get a judge to void it based on unconscionability. Meaning? Meaning they'll argue the terms are so one-sided that enforcing them would be unfair. It's a long shot, but with enough money and the right judge, sometimes long shots connect. How long will it take? Weeks, maybe a month before a judge reviews the motion and issues a ruling. But Rob, the 72-hour deadline is still active. If he doesn't pay by Sunday, we proceed with seizure regardless of what legal challenges he files. Good. You're really going to take his car. I'm really going to take his car. She sighed. All right. I'll have the tow company on standby, and Rob, check your mail. He might try to serve you with something. She was right. Friday afternoon, a process server showed up at my door. Young guy, probably doing this between college classes. He looked nervous. Robert Lister? That's me. I have documents for you. He handed me a manila envelope, thick with papers. Have a good day, sir. Inside was a petition for emergency relief. Ryan's new lawyer was asking a judge to freeze all enforcement of the loan agreement pending a full hearing on its validity. They'd scheduled an emergency hearing for Tuesday morning. I called Margaret. They're trying to stop the seizure. I saw Judge Hammond. She's fair but conservative. Doesn't like family disputes. Can they win? Not without evidence of coercion or incapacity. And we have video of you being perfectly competent. But she might grant a temporary stay just to avoid irreversible harm. What's irreversible? It's a car. To you. To Ryan, it's his only transportation and a symbol of his success. Judges are human. They don't like seeing parents destroy their children even when the children deserve it. So what do? We show up Tuesday with our own evidence, the recording of him threatening you, Jenna's testimony, the video from Thanksgiving. We prove he's not the victim here. Sunday came and went. No payment, no certified check, no wire transfer, just radio silence. Monday morning at 8 a.m., a flatbed tow truck pulled up outside Ryan's townhouse in Cherry Creek. The driver called me from the scene. Got a black Tesla here, 2023 model. This the one? That's it. Owner's standing in the driveway yelling at me, says this is illegal. Want me to call the cops? No need. You have the court order. He can't stop you. All right, give me 10 minutes. I heard shouting in the background, Ryan's voice, high and desperate, arguing with the driver. Then Madison's voice, trying to calm him down. Then more shouting. 15 minutes later, the driver called back. Got it loaded. Owner tried to block the truck with his body. Had to call the cops after all. They explained the situation. He's pretty upset. I imagine he is. Where you want it delivered? Impound lot on Brighton Boulevard. I'll meet you there with the paperwork. I drove down to Denver that afternoon. The Tesla sat in the impound lot between a rusted pickup and a Honda with a shattered windshield. It looked obscene, all that expensive engineering surrounded by vehicles that had actually been used for something real. Margaret met me there with the equity seizure documents. The company papers are filed. Ryan's ownership stake is now held in escrow pending payment of the debt. He can't vote his shares, can't sell them, can't use them as collateral for other loans. How'd his business partner react? According to the filing, there are 3 other partners. They're not happy. Word is they're considering buying him out just to clean up the mess. Good. Rob, you know this destroys his company, right? Without that equity, he can't get bridge financing. The investors will pull out. It'll collapse inside a month. He should have thought about that before he tried to have me declared incompetent. She handed me the keys to the Tesla. It's yours now. What are you going to do with it? I looked at the car. Sleek, expensive, useless on mountain roads in winter. Everything Ryan valued and nothing I needed. Sell it, I said. Donate the money to the group home where Danny lives. Margaret smiled. You're a piece of work, you know that? So I've been told. But Ryan wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The email came from Blake and Associates, a law firm I'd never heard of, at 6 a.m. on Tuesday. Subject: Notice of legal action. I opened it on my phone, still in bed, the room cold and dark around me. They were filing for emergency conservatorship, claiming I'd exhibited erratic and vindictive behavior, made financially ruinous decisions designed to harm my own son, and demonstrated clear signs of diminished capacity, masked by superficial competence. The petition included statements from 3 of Ryan's friends, none of whom had ever met me, swearing I'd always been difficult and paranoid. It included a psychological evaluation from a doctor Ryan had paid $3,000 to review my case, based solely on Ryan's description of events. The hearing was scheduled for Friday, 4 days away. I called Margaret immediately. I saw it, she said before I could speak. They filed at midnight, trying to catch us off guard. Can they win? Honestly? Maybe. Judge Richardson is handling it. He's old school. Doesn't like family conflict. Tends to err on the side of protection, which means he might grant temporary conservatorship just to freeze the situation while he sorts it out. That's insane. That's the system. But Rob, we have something they don't. What? The truth, and video evidence, and independent testimony from a county social worker. They're relying on hearsay and paid opinions. We have facts. What do we need to do? Fight. Hard. I'll file an opposition brief today. We'll request an expedited competency evaluation by a court-appointed psychiatrist. And we'll enter the Thanksgiving video as evidence. Let the judge see exactly who's unstable in this relationship. Do it. I got out of bed and made coffee, hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, from rage. Ryan was trying to lock me up, actually trying to have me declared incompetent and put under his control, all because I'd enforced a contract he'd signed. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Margaret filed 20 pages of opposition briefs. We met with Dr. Helen Reeves, a forensic psychiatrist who spent 3 hours evaluating me, asking questions designed to probe for paranoia, delusion, cognitive impairment, or impaired judgment. She concluded I was not only competent, but remarkably stable and rational given the circumstances. Her report went to the judge Wednesday afternoon. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the hearing tomorrow. Thinking about Ryan sitting in some lawyer's office, signing papers, swearing under oath that his father was incompetent. Believing it. Actually believing that he was the victim and I was the unstable one. Maybe I was unstable. Maybe taking everything from him was overkill. Maybe I should have just let him try for conservatorship, fought it in court, and moved on. But then I thought about him standing on my porch with Dale Patterson, threatening me, calling the county to report me, planning Thanksgiving at my house while secretly preparing to take everything. No, he'd made his choice. Now he could live with the consequences. Friday morning, I drove to Denver in my truck. Margaret met me at the courthouse steps, carrying 2 briefcases full of evidence. Ready? as I'll ever be. Rob, listen. Whatever happens in there, stay calm. Don't react, don't argue. Let me do the talking. If the judge asks you questions, answer briefly and respectfully. Don't let Ryan get under your skin. I won't. I mean it. He's going to paint you as vindictive and unstable. The best way to prove him wrong is to be the opposite. Calm, reasonable, competent. I understand. We walked inside. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with rows of benches and a judge's bench that looked like it had been there since the building was built in 1952. Ryan was already there with his lawyer, Julian Torres, a man in his 50s wearing a suit that cost more than my truck. Ryan wouldn't look at me, just sat there, staring at his hands. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Richardson entered, an older man with white hair and glasses, looking tired before the hearing even started. I've reviewed both petitions, he said without preamble. Mr. Torres, you filed for emergency conservatorship. Make your case. Torres stood. Your Honor, we have before us a tragic situation. A father who has suffered a profound mental decline and is lashing out at his son in increasingly destructive ways. Mr. Lister has isolated himself in a remote mountain property. He has severed contact with family. He has seized his son's vehicle and company shares over a debt that was clearly a family gift, not a legal obligation. He orchestrated an elaborate Thanksgiving ambush designed to humiliate and financially destroy his only child. These are not the actions of a rational person. They're the actions of someone who needs help. He presented the statements from Ryan's friends, the paid psychological opinion, medical records showing I'd been treated for high cholesterol and took a statin, which Torres suggested might cause cognitive side effects. It was impressive, almost convincing, if you didn't know the truth. Then Margaret stood. Your Honor, with respect, everything Mr. Torres just said is either misleading or false. May I present evidence? Judge Richardson nodded. Margaret played the video from my porch. Ryan threatening conservatorship, Dale Patterson talking about cognitive decline, me staying calm, professional, asking them to leave. Then she played the Thanksgiving video. Ryan at the table, signing the loan agreement, Margaret explaining the terms, Ryan saying he understood, Patricia the notary certifying everything. Then she played Ryan lunging across the table, shouting, losing control. Judge Richardson watched without expression. Margaret entered Jenna Ortiz's written testimony, Dr. Reeves's psychiatric evaluation, my financial records showing 30 years of responsible decisions and stable investments. Your Honor, Margaret said quietly, Mr. Lister is not incompetent. He's not declining. He's simply refusing to be stolen from. His son came to his property with a lawyer and threatened him. His son called the county with false allegations. His son tried to coerce him into signing over assets. Mr. Lister responded by enforcing a legal contract that his son signed and is now trying to escape. That's not instability. That's self-defense. Judge Richardson looked at Ryan. Mr. Lister, stand, please. Ryan stood, looking small and pale. Did you sign this loan agreement? Yes, but did your father tell you it was a gift? He said there was no interest. That's not what I asked. Did he explicitly tell you it was a gift and you didn't have to repay it? Ryan hesitated. No. Did you read the contract before signing? Longer hesitation. Not carefully. Did you or did you not come to your father's property and threaten conservatorship if he didn't sign over assets? I was concerned. Yes or no? Yes. Judge Richardson sat back. Motion denied. Mr. Robert Lister is clearly competent and within his rights to enforce a valid contract. Mr. Ryan Lister, you signed an agreement. You're bound by its terms. This court will not be used to help you escape the consequences of your own decisions. Petition dismissed. The gavel came down. Ryan stood there frozen. Torres grabbed his arm, pulled him toward the door, already talking about appeals. I sat there feeling nothing but exhausted relief. Margaret packed up her briefcases. Well, that went well. It's not over, I said. No, she agreed. It's not. Men like Ryan don't stop. They just change tactics. She was right. The call came at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, jolting me out of sleep. I grabbed the phone without looking at the screen. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. Then Ryan's voice, slurred and wrong. You destroyed me. You know that? You destroyed everything. I sat up, suddenly awake. Ryan, where are you? Does it matter? You got what you wanted. Took my car, took my company, made me look like a fool in court. So congratulations, Dad. You win. Hope it feels good. Are you driving? Madison left me. Did you know that? Moved out yesterday. Said she didn't sign up for this. Said she married someone successful, not someone whose own father hates him. I could hear wind in the background. Traffic. He was outside somewhere. Ryan, tell me where you are. Why? So you can call the cops? Have me picked up? Maybe get me committed? So I know you're safe. He laughed, bitter and sharp. Safe. That's rich coming from you. You're the reason I'm not safe. You're the reason I lost everything. No, Ryan. You lost everything because you tried to steal from me. Because you thought I was too old and stupid to fight back. I just wanted to help you. You wanted my money. There's a difference. Silence. Then the sound of a bottle clinking. Glass on concrete. You're wrong about me. Am I? I'm your son. I loved you. I needed help, okay? The company was failing. Madison wanted things I couldn't afford. The investors were pulling out. I was drowning. And you were sitting on all this money, all this property, acting like it didn't matter. Like you didn't owe me anything. I didn't owe you anything, Ryan. That's not how family works. Then explain how it's supposed to work. Because from my point of view, it looks like you're giving everything to some kid from a group home and leaving nothing for your own son. I went cold. How do you know about Danny? I hired a PI after the hearing, wanted to know what else you were hiding, found out about your little guardianship petition, about the trust, about how you gave him everything that should have been mine. Danny earned it, by being decent, by caring about someone other than himself. He's not your son. Neither are you, not anymore. The connection cut off abruptly. I sat there in the dark, phone in my hand, heart pounding. Then I called Margaret. Ryan knows about Danny. She was quiet for a moment. How much does he know? The guardianship, the trust, maybe more. That's not good. If he goes after Danny, he won't. The trust is sealed. Danny's name isn't on any public records. Rob, if Ryan hired a PI, he has access to all the information we filed. The guardianship petition is in family court. It's supposed to be confidential, but with enough money and the right connections, things leak. What do? We protect Danny. I'll call the group home tomorrow, put them on alert, and we get a restraining order. If Ryan comes near you or Danny, he gets arrested. Do it. I tried to sleep. Couldn't. Just lay there thinking about Ryan drunk somewhere, spiraling, dangerous. Thinking about Danny, safe in the group home, unaware that he'd become a target. At dawn, I drove to Denver. Showed up at the group home at 8 a.m. when visiting hours started. The director, a woman named Beverly, who'd been running the place for 20 years, met me in the lobby. Rob, is everything okay? Is Danny here? He's at school, won't be back until 3. I need you to do something. There might be someone trying to contact him, a man named Ryan Lister, my son. If he shows up, don't let him near Danny. Call the police. Her face went serious. What's going on? Family dispute. It's complicated. But Danny's caught in the middle and I need him protected. I'll alert the staff. We'll keep him safe. Thank you. I left and drove to Danny's school, a public high school in a rough part of Denver where the security guards actually paid attention. I found the principal, explained the situation, got Danny added to a watch list. Then I called Danny. Rob? What's wrong? Nothing. Just checking in. How are you? Fine. Kinda busy with homework. We have a test tomorrow in geometry. You'll do great. Listen, I need you to be careful for a while. Careful how? Just, if anyone you don't know tries to talk to you, don't engage. Call me immediately, okay? You're scaring me. I don't mean to. You're safe. I'm just being cautious. Does this have to do with your son? The one you told me about? Smart kid. Yeah, it does. He's not handling things well. Is he going to hurt you? No, he's just angry. It'll pass. But I wasn't sure if that was true. Monday morning, Margaret filed for a restraining order. Temporary order granted that afternoon. Ryan was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me, Danny, or the group home. Tuesday, Ryan violated it. The group home called at 4 p.m. Beverly's voice tight with controlled panic. Rob, he's here. Who's there? Your son, Ryan. He showed up an hour ago asking to see Danny. We told him Danny wasn't available. He's been sitting in his car across the street ever since. Did you call the police? They're on their way. But Rob, Danny saw him through the window. He's scared, asking what's going on. Put him on. A pause. Then Danny's voice, small and frightened. Rob. Hey kid, you're okay. You're safe. The police are coming. Who is that guy? Why is he watching the house? That's my son. We're having a disagreement. He thinks I care about you more than I care about him. He's right, but he's not handling it well. Is he going to hurt me? No, absolutely not. He's just trying to scare you. Don't let him. You're protected. The staff won't let him near you. I don't understand why he hates me. I never did anything to him. This isn't about you, Danny. This is about him and me. You're just caught in the crossfire. But I promise I will keep you safe, no matter what. Okay. I'm driving down right now. Stay inside until I get there. I hung up and drove faster than I should have, pushing the truck down the mountain highway at 75, 80, hitting 90 on the straightaways. Made it to Denver in 43 minutes, parked outside the group home where 2 police cars were already waiting. Ryan's car was gone. Beverly met me at the door. The police talked to him, said if he came back he'd be arrested. He left about 10 minutes ago. Where's Danny? Upstairs, with one of the counselors. I found him in the common room, sitting on a couch with his arms wrapped around his knees, trying to look brave and failing. When he saw me, something in his face cracked. Hey, I said, sitting beside him. I'm sorry. For what? For causing problems. If you'd never met me, none of this would be happening. I put my arm around his shoulders. Danny, listen to me. You didn't cause this. My son caused this by being greedy and cruel. You're the best thing in my life right now. The only thing worth protecting. Don't ever apologize for that. He leaned against me, shaking slightly. I've never had anyone care about me like this before. Well, you do now, and I'm not going anywhere. We sat there for a long time, not talking, just being present. Eventually, the counselor brought hot chocolate. Danny drank his slowly, hands wrapped around the mug. What happens now? He asked. Now, we make sure Ryan can't get near you again. Margaret's filing for an extended restraining order. If he violates it again, he goes to jail. Will that stop him? I thought about Ryan drunk at 2 a.m., spiraling, desperate. About the look in his eyes at Thanksgiving when he realized he'd lost. About how far people will go when they have nothing left to lose. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm going to make sure you're safe anyway. I stayed at the group home until 9 p.m. Then I drove home, exhausted, worried, wondering what Ryan would do next. I found out the next morning. I woke up to the sound of an engine, not the normal sound of a car on the driveway, but something heavier, a truck, multiple trucks. I looked out the window and saw 3 vehicles parked at the gate, a white van, a black SUV, and Ryan's rental car. I grabbed my phone, called 911, and walked outside in my bathrobe holding a cup of coffee, trying to look unconcerned. Ryan stepped out of the car wearing a suit. Beside him came two men in security uniforms and a woman carrying a clipboard and a notary stamp. "Dad," Ryan called, "we need to talk." I stood on the porch, staying on my side of the property line. "You're violating a restraining order." "Actually, I'm not. I'm 503 feet away. Measured it myself." He held up a laser measuring device. "What do you want, Ryan?" "I want what's mine. You have documents in this house. The original loan agreement. The trust papers for Danny. The deed. I'm here to collect them legally." "With security guards?" "With witnesses. I have a court order authorizing me to retrieve my personal property from this residence." He held up a paper. It looked official. "That's fake," I said. "It's real. Signed by Judge Hammond yesterday. She agreed that I have a right to documents pertaining to agreements I signed. So here's how this works. You give me access to those documents, or I come take them. You're not coming on my property. Then I'll have the sheriff remove you for obstruction." I pulled out my phone, showed him the screen. Recording. "Say that again." Ryan smiled. Not the angry smile from before. Something colder. Calculated. "I'm not threatening you, Dad. I'm enforcing a legal order. Either comply or face contempt charges." One of the security guards moved toward the gate. Big guy, probably ex-military, trying to look official. "Stop," I said. He didn't stop. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small remote, pressed the red button. A siren erupted from the barn, loud enough to make everyone flinch. Floodlights snapped on, pointing at the gate, the driveway, the vehicles. And from inside the barn, a mechanical winch activated, pulling a steel cable across the driveway at chest height, blocking access. The security guard stopped. "What the hell is that?" Ryan shouted over the siren. "Security system," I called back. "Motion activated. Calls the sheriff automatically. You've got about 3 minutes before they arrive." Ryan's face went red. "You're insane." "No, I'm prepared." I pressed another button. The siren cut off, but the floodlight stayed on and the cable stayed up. "That court order is fake," I said calmly. "Judge Hammond denied your motion for document access 2 days ago. Margaret told me. You're betting I don't know that. You're betting I'll panic and let you in. But I'm not panicking, Ryan. I'm just waiting for the sheriff." Ryan looked at the notary. She stepped back toward the van, suddenly interested in her phone. "You can't keep running," Ryan said. "You can't keep hiding behind lawyers and restraining orders. Eventually, you'll slip up. And when you do, I'll be right here." "No, you won't," I said, "because you're going to leave, right now, and you're never coming back." I pulled a metal case from behind the porch railing, set it on the ground where they could all see it. "You want to know what's in here?" I opened the lid. Inside were documents, notarized, registered, sealed. The house is Danny's, permanently, irrevocable trust, filed with the county, immune to any legal challenge. I have lifetime residency, but I don't own it. Neither do you. The loan agreement, already enforced. Your car is sold. Your company shares are in escrow. That debt is marked on your credit report. Every future investor will see it. And this, I pulled out one more document. This is a sworn affidavit from Jenna Ortiz, the social worker, stating that Danny is my legal dependent, that I'm his guardian, and that any attempt to contact or harass him will be treated as child endangerment, which is a felony, Ryan, not a civil matter. A felony. I closed the case and attached it to a steel cable, pressed a button on the remote. The winch activated, pulling the case up and over the porch edge, suspending it in midair where they could see it, but not reach it. "So here's what happens next," I continued, voice steady and cold. "You leave. You don't come back. You don't contact Danny. You don't hire PIs or file fake court orders or show up with security guards. You accept that you lost, that you made bad choices, and now you're living with the consequences. And if I don't? Then I release everything to the press. Your texts begging for money, the recording of you threatening conservatorship, the video of you lunging across the table at Thanksgiving, I'll make sure every investor, every potential business partner, every person who Googles your name sees exactly who you are." Ryan stared at me, breathing hard. "But if you walk away now, I stay quiet. You get to keep whatever reputation you have left. You can rebuild, start over, maybe even become the person you always pretended to be." "You're giving me an ultimatum." "I'm giving you a choice." A sheriff's deputy pulled up at that moment, lights flashing, got out of the car, hand on his belt. "Everything okay here?" I smiled. "Just fine, deputy. My son and his friends were just leaving." The deputy looked at Ryan, at the security guards, at the fake notary. "Sir, are you Robert Lister's son?" "Yes. There's a restraining order in place. You're supposed to stay 500 feet away. I'm 503 feet. The deputy pulled out his own laser measure, pointed it at Ryan, checked the reading. 497 feet. You're in violation. I'm going to need you to leave immediately, or I'll place you under arrest." Ryan's mouth opened, closed. I drew a white line in the snow with the toe of my boot, straight across the driveway, marking the boundary. "This is the line," I said quietly. "You don't cross it. Not today. Not ever. You don't come to my house. You don't contact Danny. You don't send lawyers or PIs or fake notaries. This is where your access to my life ends." Ryan took a step forward. The deputy moved to intercept. "Sir, don't." Ryan froze, looked at me, at the deputy, at the cable blocking the driveway and the case hanging in midair and the floodlights making everything stark and undeniable. Then he got in his car. The security guards got in the van. The fake notary got in the SUV. They left. I pressed the button. The cable retracted. The case lowered back to the porch. The floodlights shut off. The deputy approached. "Mr. Lister, are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." "That was quite a setup you've got there." "I used to design bridges. This was easier." He smiled slightly. "If he comes back, call us immediately." "I will." The deputy left. I stood on the porch in the sudden silence, watching the sun rise over the mountains, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. I'd won. Not by being cruel, not by being vindictive, by being smarter, faster, more prepared, by refusing to be the victim Ryan wanted me to be. I went inside, made coffee, and called Danny. "It's over," I said when he answered. "What's over?" "Everything. Ryan's gone. He's not coming back." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." He was quiet for a moment. "What happens now?" "Now. You finish school. You come visit on weekends. Next summer, we build that workshop I promised you. And we live our lives without worrying about people who don't deserve our worry. That sounds good." "It does, doesn't it?" I hung up and sat on the porch, watching the valley fill with morning light. Ryan would try again. Eventually. Men like him always did. But next time, I'd be ready. Because I'd learned something important over these last few months. You don't win by hoping bad people will change. You win by making sure they can't hurt you. And I'd won.